So welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to take the brave step to plant my tomatoes in the garden. It's really difficult to know when to plant them because of the chance of frost, but today's the day for me. So if you've not already subscribed to my channel, if you could please do so. I'll give you lots of helpful hints from my home garden, my allotment and also my home kitchen. Now it's that time of year, we're in May now, and it's always really debatable when you put your tomatoes in because you never really know when the frost has gone. I think I'm quite confident, but one of the things I do to protect my plants is I've got a little bit of a frame here that I've put up, and then I've got a cover to put over it, so if we were to get a little bit of a frost, I've got something as a backup if we've got a frost during the night. So as you can see, they're a little bit leggy, some of these tomatoes, which is often the case this time of year. You know, I haven't got heat lamps, I haven't got a heated greenhouse. I kind of have to do the best I can. So what I'll be doing is I'll be sinking these quite deeply into the ground, and the benefit of that is obviously you don't want them really long and tall and spindly, but also they'll shoot more roots out of the stems as well, so it will work in two ways. It will obviously stop them from being so spindly, and once they get planted into the ground they will start to fill out and bush out, and they won't look so skinny. I mean, this one's not too bad actually, but I'll still sink that one a fair way down because it's just a lot better for the plant to be sunk into the ground a little bit more. So I'm just going to move this out of the way now and start to get these into the soil. Being careful not to lock any of the plants. Let's get the first one here. So I just want to dig a really nice deep hole. So I'll start off with the fork, but I might need a little shovel to get out the rest of it. So my little spade would have been better, but that's up the allotment. But this will do the job just as well. You want to make a nice deep hole to drop that tomato into. You just keep pulling the soil out and then testing whether you've got it down enough or not. I think I'll probably take that down a wee bit more actually. So you can't really have them down too deep, and the deeper down, you know, like I say, the more roots will shoot out of the stems the better. So let's get that down nice and deep, like so. Obviously if your tomatoes weren't quite so leggy you wouldn't have to go to this effort, and if you were doing them in buckets, obviously you just drop them down into the bottom of the buckets and fill the soil in and around. So let's give that a go and see where we're at. So there we go, that's pretty good I think, and then obviously we just backfill. Be careful not to damage the stalk at all. Break any clumps up if you've got any clumps. You don't want any clumps around it. You know, some of the soil's quite dry, some of it's quite moist, so just put that round. One thing I am going to do is to put a little stake in. This will just be a temporary stake while they're smaller, because I will put a big long stake in as the season goes on, but because obviously I'm putting a cover over it at the moment, if I put a long stake in, obviously it'd be too long to be able to protect it. So there we go, that's in the ground. Let's get a stake to push in next to it. So like I say, this is just a temporary one until I take that cover off, and I will just push that down the side of it like so, and then I will just tie it to the little stake there with a little bit of string. So I'm only putting 5 out today because I could only fit so many underneath that clutch. The reason for that, whenever I put stuff out, when you're not sure whether the frost has gone or not, if you put it out in stages, if you lost a couple it wouldn't be so bad, but if you lost them all, that would be quite soul destroying. So I would never put all my tomatoes out in one go. I would put out several at a time. I'll probably be putting out, in total, probably about a dozen this year is normally roughly what I have, 10 to 12, all different varieties, because I like a choice of different tomatoes. So there we go, so that's all safely tied up. If you don't tie your tomatoes up, before you know it, you'll come out one morning, they'll be flopped on the floor, and then they could be damaged, and you don't want that. Obviously don't tie it too tight because you don't want to damage the stalk, but you do obviously need to tie the tomatoes to the cane to make sure that they don't flop over. And make sure your knot's done up properly as well. That doesn't look that tight. Like that. There we go. And then I shall put some tomato feed on each one that I plant as I plant it, so they get a good drink of water. The other thing is, watch out for side shoots. I've already taken the shoots out of these, a couple of them, but if you've got any side shoots that have appeared, as you can see I've taken one out of there. You've got to start taking your side shoots out as well this time of year. So let me grab my watering can. I've already put a little bit of tomato feed in the watering can as per the instructions on it, and then just give that a really good water. Just water that into the ground. So my tomatoes are now in the ground, as you can see. I've sunk them down quite a bit. I've put stakes in, I've tied them up with string to support them, and I've also taken out any of the side shoots. I've also given them a really good water and feed with a tomato feed. So the frame is on. One thing I do if you've got any frame like this at all, is I do put bricks and boulders around the edges here, because if you don't, if you get any wind, it could take off. Now that is pretty secure, you know, it's not guaranteed, but it's pretty good. And you also pop some pegs in around the outside of the frame. Now during the day, obviously I'll flip this back and I'll let the lovely sun get to it. In the evening, I think there's going to be a chance of frost. I'll pull the little flap down and then I'll just zip it up. You know, and this does a couple of things. When they're quite delicate and they're quite new, it shelters them from the wind, and also if we were to get a frost. So there's no guarantees, but that's what I often do, just to safeguard. It's the same when I put my brassicas out in my allotment. I'll always put a little bit of cover or fleece over them if I think there's any chance that there might be any frost. But hopefully, fingers crossed, there won't be, and this will merely just be a precaution. Now I'd love to know whether you've put your tomatoes out, whether you think you're frost free, and any hints and tips you've got to protect your plants at the moment.